Good afternoon. My name is Xavier Bailey. I'm the Manatee Tiger Bay president, and we welcome you here today. I will be moderating today's conversation. First, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Edward Bailey, Jr.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Right now, we'd like to recognize if we do have any active veterans, or do we have any veterans or active duty members present today? Could you just please to be recognized? We just want to give you your flowers. Thank you so. I got you. Thank you so much for your service. We do have a candidate, a Republican House District 71 candidate for House, Melton Little. If you are running for office, make sure when you check in, we'll be announcing all candidates. Just make sure if you stand, Melton, and just wave to everybody. If you are running for office or decide you're running for office, please make sure you check in your candidates, or if you're an elected official, please check in at the door. Thank you so much. Today is a very important conversation about the most vulnerable people in our community. And Roger gave us an email, and we start having a conversation about what he had posed to us about coming to have this conversation to talk to our community. And I said, well, maybe we can wait for next year. And then I had my sister's mother-in-law that had gotten scammed out of $98,000. And I said, you know what, maybe we should do this now and have a conversation, especially going into the new year with the holidays. And so we're glad that METV is here, because you will also be able to share this throughout the community, have your friends and your family members watch this, because this is so important that we make sure we protect our most vulnerable and the people that made sure that we were okay when we were growing up. First, our speakers today are going to be Roger Hamburg, shareholder at Gray Robinson, former U.S. Attorney for Middle District of Florida, Officer Deanna McNeil, Elder Fraud Unit, Bradenton Police Department, and Detective Jim Carula, Elder Fraud Unit, Bradenton Police Department. They actually tag team their department together, so they will be doing their presentations together. So that's why you will see both of them on the stage. I am going to read the bio now for Mr. Roger Hamburg, shareholder of Gray Robinson, former United States Attorney for the Middle District of Florida. Roger Hamburg is a shareholder of Gray Robinson. Prior to joining Gray Robinson, Hamburg served as the United States Attorney for the Middle District of Florida from 2021 to 2025. In that role, Hamburg was the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for the second largest district in the country by population. Hamburg served for more than 20 years as a federal prosecutor. He joined the U.S. Attorney's Office in 2002, and he served in various senior positions within the office, including as the criminal chief, North Chief of Orlando Division, and Senior Litigation Counsel. During his career with the office, Hamburg specialized in investigation and prosecution of public corruption and white-collar crime cases. As part of his practice, he successfully prosecuted more than $500 million in fraud cases. Wow. Prior to joining the U.S. Attorney's Office, Hamburg served as the Senior Assistant Attorney General in the Economic Crimes Division for the Office of Florida Attorney in Tallahassee, and as a litigation associate at King and Spalding in Atlanta. Hamburg is a graduate of the University of North Carolina and Harvard Law School. Please give him a round of applause as he comes forth.
Well, thank you for having me here today, and I always appreciate an organization that when I send an unsolicited email does not actually just delete it, and it's a real pleasure to be here. So by show of hands, who here has had somebody text them, call them, or email them to try to scam them? Okay. And if you're not raising your hand, you should raise your hand, because we have all been subject to this. And so for more than 2 decades, I was a federal prosecutor at the United States Attorney's Office. A lot of times when people think about federal prosecutors, you might think of lawyers who live and work in D.C. Most federal prosecutors actually live and work in the communities they serve. So I was with the United States Attorney's Office for something called the Middle District of Florida, which is just a geographic region that covers Fort Myers, Tampa, Orlando, Ocala, and Jacksonville. The lawyers in that office are federal prosecutors, and I was one of them for more than 20 years. And they do the work of the people of the United States in federal court, and it was a real privilege for me to do that. And early in my time as a prosecutor, I had a case that really sort of transformed my practice. It was a case involving, and you probably never heard of this person, but you might have heard of him. His name is Lou Pearlman. And Lou Pearlman was the creator of 2 very famous bands in the 90s called the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. And so Lou Pearlman is one of the people responsible for the boy band phenomena. And what people did not know was, in addition to doing that, he, for more than 20 years, was perpetrating a Ponzi scheme. And the Ponzi scheme was an investment fraud scheme where what he told people was, I'm rich, you're not rich. Because I'm rich and my company's successful, banks give me a better rate of return. And what I'm going to do, because we're such good friends, I'm going to give you the benefit of that. So if you invested with me, it's going to be FDIC insured. I've got an insurance policy with an insurance company. I've got these accountants at Cohen and Siegel who have signed off on everything. And we've got this bank in Germany, this German savings bank, as kind of a backup. Well, all of that would have been great if any of that was actually true. None of it turned out to be true. And what a Ponzi scheme is think of a game of musical chairs. Ponzi schemes where you take money from one investor and you don't use it to invest in anything. You're just giving it to other investors and you're spending it on yourself. A Ponzi scheme has the seeds of its own destruction built into it because by definition there is nothing that's making money other than bringing people in. And what happens is as money is paid out and as a person takes money out of a Ponzi scheme, it's like a game of musical chairs where there's not enough chairs. And in my case, I had over 1,500 victims. And a lot of them were elderly victims because they were the ones that was marketed to. And they were marketed to as being a very safe investment. And it wasn't. Many people lost everything. And they were in their 70s or 80s wondering what they were going to do for the rest of their life. How were they going to make ends meet? And so that case was something that was impactful for me, not just to do justice in that case, to do the best I could for the victims in that case, but going forward to look for cases where people are trying to perpetrate frauds against the most vulnerable in our society. And unfortunately, that happens, way too often. I'm going to show the slide, the second slide. So what that is it's a graph of data from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and this is just what people report. But what it shows is from 2023 to 2024, in terms of complaints reported to the FBI's Internet Complaint Center, Crime Complaint Center, the complaints have gone up over 40% and the losses have gone up over 40% for people over the age of 60. So let me just give you an example. What I'm doing is I'm going to set the stage for our detectives at the Bradenton Police Department. Let me just give you an example of how the forces are arrayed against people to try to steal people's money. So we had a case when I was U.S. Attorney where someone got a call. And the caller said, I am a detective with the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. And when that person looked at their phone, it looked like the call came from the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. And that person who was on the other end of the call gave the name of somebody that, if you looked it up on the internet, is the name of somebody who works at the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. And what this person did, this person who was engaged in this fraud, they said, listen, you missed jury duty. You missed jury duty. And there's a warrant out for your arrest. And what you need to do is you need to go to your bank. Don't hang up the phone. Do not hang up the phone. Go to your bank. I need you to get out $12,000 to pay the fine, because if you don't pay the fine, we've got an arrest team that's watching you right now. They're going to arrest you. Well, this person was terrified. And what these schemes often do is they find something that's plausible. Is it plausible that you got a notice for jury duty and maybe it didn't get delivered or it got misdelivered? It's conceivable. It is conceivable. What's not possible is that anyone from the sheriff's office would call and threaten to arrest you. But that's what this person did, and they had this person go to the bank. And one of the things in these schemes is they keep the phone to the ear. Don't hang up. They want to keep you on that line, and that's very important for these schemes to be successful for them. So the person got the money, and they said, listen, you need to go to a bonding transition center, to pay this fine. Well, bonding transition center, what are the initials for that? BTC. What else stands with BTC? Bitcoin. Well, the Bonding Transition Center was actually a Bitcoin ATM at a supermarket. And the person went there and they were told to deposit the money into that Bitcoin ATM, which they did. And then after that, what happened? And you see this time and time again in these scams, because once they have somebody, what do they want to do? They want to get even more. Oh, there's another warrant. Well, the person hung up. They hung that phone up at that time. And in that case, I really commend the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, because they investigated that case, and what they found was, obviously, there was no person at the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office who was doing this. They had spoofed the number, and they had made that phone call. And the persons who ended up being charged in that case and have pled guilty, one of them was an inmate at all relevant times in the Georgia State Prison, and the other was his girlfriend. So the people involved in threatening someone to go to jail, one of them, in fact, was in prison themselves. Now, here are the key takeaways I always give to people about this. One is, when I was a federal prosecutor and I started, a lot of these scams were clumsy. And by that I mean you would get an email and it would have clear misspellings. You know, the bank name was misspelled. The language didn't make any sense. The fraudsters have adapted and they've gotten better. It is a business. It is an evil business, but it is a business, and they invest in each and every one of you. And they do that by looking up records and trying to find out information so they can target their appeals to you. There was no mystery that this person who lived in Sarasota County got a call from the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. These fraudsters had invested in finding out enough about that person so that scam would ring true to that particular person. And it's often easy for these fraudsters to find it. The other thing you're going to see that's a hallmark of these scams is they try to create a false sense of urgency, either because you're going to get something great, maybe an investment that no one else has access to, or you're going to stop something terrible from happening. And what I always would tell people is look for those signs. And if anyone ever makes you feel like there's something you've got to do today or something really great, you're going to lose something great or something terrible is about to happen, and it's someone who's calling you on the phone, someone emailing you, someone texting you you've never heard of, cease the communication. That's the safest thing you can do at that point. And the other thing you need to do is you need to report it. Report it to the IC3.gov, which is the FBI's website. Because a lot of times when people have this happen, they think they're alone, and they think they're alone in two senses. They think they're alone in the sense that this is, that no one's going to care. Where you're going to hear from the Bradenton Police Department how much they care. And I can tell you, as someone who was a federal prosecutor for over 20 years, I've worked with hundreds of different law enforcement agencies. You should be proud of the law enforcement that serves this community at the Bradenton Police Department and the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. I work with it time and time again, and your state attorney's office. Their work holds up, and they do a fantastic job, and they will follow up on your case. So you're not alone in that sense. You're also not alone in the sense that they're not just targeting you. They're not just targeting you. They're targeting other people with the same scam. But the piece of evidence you have that you might provide to an investigator, that might be the link that they need to be able to identify who's perpetrating these frauds, because these are often whodunits. And you might have the link in the chain to help identify who that person is. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to be here to answer some questions and to hear from the Bradenton Police Department about some of the really fantastic work that they're doing. Thank you.
Please give him another round of applause. Thank you for all the work that you have done. It was interesting because they're double teaming this together, so they have longer time. And you actually had 3 minutes left. Yeah. Come on back up here. That was awesome. Thank you so much. So informative. I can't wait till we are able to start asking questions. So next we have Officer Deanna McNeil and Detective Jim Carula. I'm going to read their bios. Officer McNeil is the elder fraud investigator for Bradenton Police Department. She has a total of 9 years as an officer. She was with Brevard County Sheriff's Office for 5 years and currently with the Bradenton Police Department for 4. In 2024, she was assigned to the Elder Fraud Unit. The Elder Fraud Unit is responsible for educating the community on the rampant fraud epidemic. Besides conducting investigations, our unit provides education. She has also made over dozens of presentations within our county and banks on senior facilities, churches, and hospitals. Now I'll read her partner's bio. Detective Carula. Detective Grade 1 Jim Carula has been employed with the Bradenton Police Department since 2001. Detective Carula has been a detective for over 22 years and has investigated all types of crimes, including 11 years as the department's homicide detective. Detective Carula is currently assigned to the Elder Fraud Unit, where he is responsible also for investigating financial crimes involving elderly victims. The Elder Fraud Unit is also responsible for educating the community on the current fraud epidemic. Please welcome them as they come to give their presentation.
Well, hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, I am Detective Jim Carula, and this is my partner, Officer Deanna McNeil. Together, we make up Bradenton Police Department's Elder Fraud Unit. Basically, we investigate the frauds where our victims are over the age of 65. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about elder fraud because every single week, Officer McNeil and I have a senior that comes into our office and is sitting in a chair next to us, and the stories we hear weekly are devastating. They have lost everything, their entire life savings. These are seniors that should be enjoying life, and they're devastated, whether they don't know how they're going to proceed the next day. They don't even know how to tell their family, but they're at such a financial hardship because of these frauds, and they're devastated. Elder fraud doesn't get the respect it deserves, even from law enforcement, but definitely from the public, because they don't understand what we see. All fraud detectives will tell you what we're seeing across the country, which is elder fraud's an epidemic that is plaguing this country. And it's not just here in Manatee County in the state of Florida, it's across this country. We have criminals, not just in America, targeting our seniors. We have criminals in North Korea, China, Vietnam, India, that are targeting our seniors. And, you know, it doesn't get the respect. And I always say, working as homicide, I used to see when there's a bloody body in the street, people people get shocked and they're like, oh my gosh. But they don't see that with elder fraud. And the only people that see that are the detectives who are dealing on a day-to-day basis with this. So we're so happy to be here because we want to talk to you guys about fraud, give you guys a few pointers just so that you can walk away. We don't want you to be afraid, but the only way to stop this is from education. And so we do have booklets. So hopefully everyone has one. Everything we're going to talk about is in the booklet. There's a lot more information in the booklet, so at a later date, please read it. If you fall asleep during our presentation, don't worry, everything's in the booklet. So, there's just a lot of good information that we're not going to touch on, so please, and pass that on. We also have some extra copies. But without any further ado, I'm going to let my partner start.
All right, so we're going to dive right into what a scammer is and what they'll use. So typically, a scammer will use one of what we call our 5 Ps. And I'm going to cover these individually, but let's start off. The first one is going to be pretend, problem, prize, pressure, and pay. So the first one is going to be pretend. Scammers will impersonate legitimate organizations to individuals to gain their trust, just as Mr. Hamburg already spoke about, such as pretending to be from the IRS, Social Security, government agencies, or they may even pretend to be from Amazon, Microsoft. You need to hang up and verify who they say they are. If you need to hang up and contact your bank or contact those numbers directly to verify who they say they are, then you can do that. The next P is going to be problem. The next P is going to be problem. Scammers will often pretend that there's a problem by creating a false issue with your account or you need device repair. They may even say that you missed jury duty, is what he spoke about earlier. These are all problems to make you feel like you're afraid. And they present these things to you because you're going to do what? Try to solve them. The next P is going to be prize. And we see this often with our favorite publishing clearinghouse. Yeah, they're one of the most popular ones, but you guys, you can get these things in the mail. You can get text messages or emails for these prizes. What is a prize? It's a prize. It's not something that you have to pay for. If you have to pay for shipping, if you have to pay for taxes, it's no longer a prize. We actually partnered up with Publishing Clearinghouse, and they told us it's listed on our website. We never have our customers pay for anything. If somebody's calling you and telling you you won something and that you have to pay for it, it's no longer a prize. The next P is going to be pressure. Scammers will use a sense of urgency or threats to get you to act quickly, often demanding immediate action or payment. So they have you on the phone and they want you to hurry up and go to the bank or hurry up and go to the store and purchase gift cards. They present that urgency that is something that you have to take care of immediately.
The one thing we like to say, especially with seniors, you shouldn't be in a hurry for anything, okay? You should have the mentality, it can always wait till tomorrow. Pressure is one of these keys. These 5 Ps that we're trying to say, once you understand them and you can repeat them to yourself, I promise you, it's going to open up a world that you're going to see what we see. Every single day, I see fraud. Driving down the street, I see fraud. I turn on the news, I see fraud, because I know these 5 Ps in and out. When you start to see these, you will start to see, oh my God, there's fraud everywhere. But pressure is a huge one, because they don't want you to think. They don't want you to go ask a family member. They don't want you to call. They definitely don't want you to call law enforcement. They don't want you to check with your bank. They don't want you to do any of those things. So if you're out with a friend says, hey, I've got to run. I got to leave quickly. I got to go do this quick. That could be an alert right there. Hey, why are you rushing? You don't have to pay that bill right now. Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to go buy this? Slow them down. Get them to talk, because pressure is one that seems like every senior gets put under. And we notice, Officer McNeil and I will always say, we sit there, and it's amazing because we'll have really smart seniors who've been so successful in their life who have become victim. But it seems like the pressure they weren't thinking at that moment. It's almost like so many of them have told us that they were in a trance, or the person put them in so much fear of something that they weren't able to take a step back and just breathe. Sometimes that's all we need is just, hey, Don't click on that link. Don't answer that call. Don't take that text. Don't respond to that.
And the last P is going to be pay. They will often ask for payment in a specific way, often using methods that's hard for law enforcement to trace, such as gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers, or even gold. So if somebody is asking you to pay your Spectrum bill with a gift card, it is a scam. You do not pay bills with a gift card. You do not pay bills with gold. We've had that happen here in the city of Bradenton, believe it or not. I just finished working a $4.6 million gold case. He just worked a $1.4 million gold case last year. So they will try to talk you into buying something or spending your money to pay them in a specific way that it's hard for us to track. So just keep that in mind. If somebody's asking you to pay with a weird way, it might be a scam.
The one thing I think the public needs to understand is what law enforcement knows. Law enforcement knows there's different types of criminals who are doing the same crime, but they do it differently. Let me explain. So if a woman leaves her purse in her car, okay, and she locks the door and she leaves. This first criminal just walking down looks, he sees that purse on that seat. He doesn't know what's in there, but he believes there's something of value and he wants it. So what does he do? He goes to that car door handle and he tries to open it. The door's locked. That first type of criminal, he leaves. The second criminal, he sees that purse. He sees that purse on the seat. He opens the door, door's locked. That doesn't stop him. What does he do? He turns around, picks up a rock, breaks the glass so he can get to the purse. Okay? Now, this third type of criminal, this is what you need to understand. This third type of criminal, he's coming, he's wearing a mask, and he's wearing gloves. He hasn't even approached the car yet. Why? Because he's worried about cameras, possibly being identified. He's wearing gloves for fingerprints or DNA. He's prepared. He's going to get that purse, whether he has to break that window or not. He's not even thinking, is that an opportunity? He's going to get it. In fraud, this is what we see, meaning we've all here have received a text or an email or something. We all knew it was a scam. There could have been misspellings. There could have been something that didn't even make sense, or I don't even have an account to this, or I haven't even been over this. It was something so ridiculous you knew that it was a scam. But guys, what we're trying to tell you, especially, we don't have the time to go into detail, but even in today's time with artificial intelligence, these scams can be so sophisticated and so detailed, you'll never see it coming. I've been a cop for 24 years, and we see evidence, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is real. And only for it to be fraud. That's why we need the public to understand what we see every day. These fraudsters are getting so good because they're making billions. They're stealing billions from this country.
All right, so what is spoofing? He kind of talked a little bit about it earlier. What it is all scammers have to do now is go on a website. They can put a phone number in, any phone number. It could be from the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, the Bradenton Police Department, and it'll show up on your caller ID as such. We will never call you, ever, and ask you for money for anything, even if you miss jury duty. If you have a warrant out for your arrest, we're going to show up at your door and take you to jail. We're not going to call you in advance to tell you that you have a warrant out for your arrest. Why would we give you that warning? It's the same thing with website and email spoofing. They may be pretending to be from another website that's not legitimate. And the same thing with emails. You might get an email from Microsoft saying that you need to fix something. That's another email spoofing type. These are professional paid or unpaid actors. They sit into facilities like this all day long, and they do nothing but call and email you. That's their job. They're very good at what they do. And as long as they get one person to act on what they're trying to get, they've accomplished big. A lot of these people are from foreign countries. This is an actual picture of a scam call center in India. So keep that in mind. Once they've gotten your money, the conversion from our money to their money is huge. So they might need just one or two people to react, but they call you all day long and email you all day long. I'm going to skip a few slides because we don't have a lot of time, but he kind of spoke briefly about AI technology. I submitted my picture in an AI app, and it gave me whatever I was asking for. As you can see, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a librarian, and I'm not a chef. I'm the girl on the end. But what we're trying to get you to understand is a lot of times our seniors don't even know that this type of technology exists. Not only can I use my picture to manipulate who I am, but I can use my voice as well. I can call and say, I'm your grandson or I'm your granddaughter, and I can change my voice exactly like theirs.
And we could tell you tons of stories that you guys wouldn't believe. Real quick, I'll just tell you one that we just finished up. But we had a woman who lost her life savings of $300,000, and she was 82 years old, and she had a Facebook account. And it's going to sound funny at first until you see the totality of all the evidence. But she had received an email request from Elon Musk. And so she accepted the friend request. Now, looking at the data, weeks went by, and then all of a sudden he sent a text to her saying, hey, is Bradenton near Longbow Key? And she said yes. He goes, oh, it's a beautiful area. That was it. 2 months later, he then responded back out and he said, hey, he goes, what's the weather like in Florida? I got to go to Mar-a-Lago and see Trump today. And she goes, it's sunny. And he goes, great. And then he sent her another text saying, hey, which pair of shoes do you like, the white ones or the brown ones? And it was Elon Musk wearing a pair of brown shoes and Elon Musk wearing a pair of white shoes. And she said, I like the brown ones. He then sent her a text the next day saying, hey, it's a picture of him with Donald Trump. And he said, hey, Donald loved the brown shoes. Thanks for that. From that point on, this criminal was actually hacking into the real Elon Musk's Instagram account. Now, she didn't know that. But he was using all of Elon Musk's real pictures and real-time data and using his voice to have a communication with this woman. It lasted over 8 months before he reeled in the hook and said, hey, we've been friends a long time. If you give me $300,000, I can cement your legacy for you and your family. I can turn it into $30 million in 30 days. She did. Money's gone. Okay, and it all ended up in a bank in Vietnam. But the woman currently now is living with her grandson in Lakeland. She's penniless, okay? And this is what we see. But the seniors didn't understand technology.
We're going to dive right into banks being on the forefront of fraud. So they see fraud before we do. That's the first stop that you make before you hand all that scammer the money. They typically see somebody coming in and they know that it's a scam right away. How many of you in here know your banker? That's amazing. You don't just go through the drive-through, you know your banker on the first name basis. The bankers are there for your banking needs. They can help you with online banking. They can help you if you have issues with fraud. They can help you with anything that you need that help with. They're also there to tell you that you don't need to write checks. So these are checks that was all sent in the mail and stolen out of it. Please stop sending checks in the mail. They use a chemical and they wash the checks and they can change who to pay to the order of. Not only that, they have your first and last name, your address on that check, as well as your bank account and your routing number. So this information has all gone to a criminal. So keep that in mind when you need to go in and talk to your banker. Ask them about online banking. It's so much more easier and so much more convenient.
Once we get people to... But once we get people to actually bank online, they'll never go back to licking stamps and mailing checks. So once you see how to bank online, it's so much safer, so much secure.
On top of that, our governor signed a new law that went into effect at the beginning of 2024. Basically, banks now have 15 days to investigate if they suspect criminal activity or suspicious activity that you're being frauded. They can also close your account, so keep that in mind. If you do have to write a check, because there is some businesses that only accept checks, try to use a gel pen because it'll soak and bleed into the paper versus using a regular ballpoint pen. The last thing you need to do, if you suspect fraud, the first thing you want to do is contact your bank, ask for the fraud department, let them know that you're going to file a police report, and you have copies of your statements readily available for the police officers. That will give us one less thing that we have to subpoena so we can start working faster on your case. The next thing you need to do is close your debit or credit card accounts. They will issue you new ones. I know it's a pain in the butt to set that up again with FPL, but just keep in mind, you'll have that peace of mind knowing that somebody has that old number, they won't have your new information. And lastly, if you receive information from your bank, if they want you to dispute something within 30 days, you need to get to know that banker because you need to know your bank's policies. If you don't know your bank's policy, they may tell you you only have 30 days to dispute that fraudulent transaction that's on your account. So keep that in mind. If you go past that 30-day policy, they might not return that money to you. The next thing you need to do if you suspect fraud is contact all 3 credit bureaus. It's better to set it up online and freeze your credit online versus calling them. It takes forever. I actually have the TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax app on my phone, so I actually went in and froze my credit myself. Frozen credit will give you a peace of mind because nobody else will be able to use your Social Security number to open up a new line of credit. This does not affect your credit that you have right now. Unless you're in the field to buy a house, a car, or get out a brand new credit card. Freeze your credit. I actually left my Social Security card in Chicago when I moved to Florida, and somebody got an apartment in my name. Had my credit been frozen, I would have never had to worry about that.
And when it comes to elder fraud, not just do they want your money, but if they can't get the seniors' money, what else do you have of value? Well, you have your identity. If they can steal your identity, they can use your identity to scam other people. And by freezing your credit, it's just one more step to not be that victim.
Have you guys ever seen these machines at the end of your grocery market when you get ready to check out? Okay, so this is contactless pay. And basically what it is near-field technology. You use your phone and you tap to pay at the terminal. And what it is when you pay for your merchandise, your credit card numbers are encrypted. So say, for instance, Publix had a data breach. Now that person that hacked into their system has all of your information. If you pay with contactless pay, your number and it will be encrypted. Your credit card number will be encrypted. It will show up as numbers and letters. So it will not show up as the full 16 digits versus that person who slid their card into the terminal.
So what we're trying to tell you is whether you have it on your phone or whether you tap to pay, we want you to tap to pay instead of inserting and swiping your card. And, you know, as a senior, we see the seniors are probably the most resilient through their life. They don't see that as such. They want to be fixed, but they've actually remember when they had to pay with just cash. Then they evolved to checks, and they remember the first credit cards, and they remember when they had the machine had to swipe back and forth and press hard copies, and then they were swiping their card and inserting their card. Well, we're just going to the next level of security. We want to start tapping. It's just the best way.
And it's the same thing with the gas pumps and the ATMs. Now you can use your phone to tap to pay at an ATM and take out money or withdraw or insert money. And these skim card readers, we got them off of gas stations and ATMs here in the city of Bradenton. So keep that in mind when you slide. This machine or this device could possibly be on that gas pump or ATM.
When we talk about fraud, I'd like to put it out this way. Think of elder fraud as like the plains of Africa, and you have tons of gazelles out there roaming the plains. Well, we've all watched those nature shows. We know that there are lions and tigers out there. That's what elder fraud is. These fraudsters are going to get a gazelle. They are. Our job is that they don't get a gazelle in Manatee County. Okay? What we're trying to do is we're not going to stop fraud, but by using these pointers, by tapping to pay, by not writing checks, by remembering these 5 Ps, not clicking on suspicious emails or links, by doing those things, you're not going to be the slowest gazelle. That's what we want you to do, and that's what we want you guys to remember.
So all that information, like he said before, is going to be in the little hand booklet. If you guys get time, read it. You can pass the information along to somebody else. You can stop a friend from being scammed as well.
So thank you guys very much. It was a pleasure.
I am the gazelle. This is so interesting because I think this is more about fraud. I think that those of us who don't want to kind of go to that next level, I've had the Microsoft phishing. I've gotten that when they got me. Is it a gazelle, you said? Bradenton, there was this gas station, 7-Eleven. I kept wondering every single time, why do I keep getting they keep calling about my credit card. They said somebody got your credit card, and I canceled it like 4 times, and then I stopped going to that particular gas station, and I realized they must have been scamming me off of and I write checks. I am a hella check writer. I love writing checks. So I really need to kind of change myself, maybe my habits, because I think I'm going to be a gazelle. I don't want to be the slowest. Just be fast. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate that so much. To the audience, we're going to allow everyone to ask a question today. This is our last meeting of the year. Our next meeting is in January, where we'll have the new superintendent will be speaking. And we're going to do our Tiger by the Tail today. So whoever has the best question will have a free lunch for the new year, January. So anyone who has questions for our panelists, please see Christy, wave your hand. You can go to the middle of the room and ask them anything you want.
Hi, my name is Liv Coleman, and I'm a professor of political science at the University of Tampa, but I live in Bradenton. Thank you so much for this very informative presentation. Sometimes as an academic, I've gotten fraudulent emails for things like big scientific conferences or academic journals.
Wow.
Where I was asked to participate, I was invited to be a professional basketball player in Europe. I really enjoyed those. But I thought that's actually probably targeted to the students,
Wow.
not to me. And so I wonder, this discussion about elder care fraud, though, are there, younger people or college students, they may not have the same kind of assets that a retired person does, but they might have Bitcoin wallets or credit cards or other kinds of things. Have you seen any particular kinds of scams or words of caution, particularly for the younger population who also may not be as familiar with how the criminal justice system works or how banks work or things like that?
That's a great one. Yes, when it comes to the youth, the big one that I see in a lot of our detectives is the jury duty scam has been a big one. And it's funny because I do have a 23-year-old myself who goes to college, and a bunch of his friends were over the summer, and I went to them and I said, hey guys, I said, if someone was to reach out to you, now these are 4 college students, all very smart young men, and I said, hey, if someone was to call you and say, hey, you missed jury duty, and you have a choice to either show up on Monday or pay the $1,000 or the $500 fine, what would you do? And all 4 of them said, oh, I'd pay the fine because we don't. And I said, because you didn't want to get arrested? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, you can't get arrested for missing jury duty. They would just, but with the young people, they don't understand that. They don't know that. And they don't want to have to show up for jury duty because that scam's targeted towards the young, because an older person would be like, oh, sure, I'll come in on Monday. So they know what to say and they know what to do.
I would say if you're going to give them any advice, tell them to slow down. Because a lot of times we quickly read through these emails and text messages. I almost fell for the toll road scam myself. So a lot of times we just read through these text messages without noticing there's a change into the email or the text message that doesn't make it correct. So just slow down a little bit, take your time.
And one thing I recommend that everyone do with people of all ages, because the scams we're talking about, a lot of them are, they victimize the elderly, but they're target. They'll take anybody's money. Talk with the people you love about these things. Have those conversations, with the people, your children, your friends, your family, so that people can start identifying these things, because it's not always going to be, the same seems not going to be obvious to everyone. And realize that it is unrelenting. It is unrelenting how many of these scams we get. And they were talking about those boiler rooms, and they're doing call after call. I mean, their success rate is not high, but when they get somebody, they often have a big windfall. And so we've all got to kind of encourage and support each other on this.
Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Gould. I sit on the criminal bench in Manatee County. Before I was a judge, I was a prosecutor, and I prosecuted elderly exploitation and different type of fraud cases. So thank you for what you're doing and educating the public. I also used to do that. This was back in about 2018, 2019. I think things have evolved a little bit since I've been on the criminal bench, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on apps like Zelle and Venmo and Apple Pay.
really much time to go through it, but we love Zelle personally as law enforcement, and the reason why that is over 2,000 banks use Zelle. And the reason why they started with that is because banks are losing money, and they're not in the business to lose money. So they all came together and said, let's come up with this program so we can stop our customers from losing money from the scams. I can't talk too much about the other companies personally, but they're very hard for law enforcement to work with. And why is because they want to keep your data and your privacy safe, and they won't give us a lot of the information that we request. And they have that on their website. Just keep that in mind. These places are not FDIC insured. If you use Cash App and you lose your money on Cash App, you just lost it. It's the same thing with these crypto companies, et cetera. So the banks partnered up and made a company called Zelle, so that way it's easier for us to subpoena them and get all the information we need. And we're pro Zelle. The rest of the companies I can't speak too much about. You may have to use them if you're using making a transaction with foreign companies that you don't want to give them your credit card information. We actually encourage that. But at the same time, keep in mind, if we have to subpoena for records, it's very hard for us to get those sometimes.
Just to say, these other companies are actually honest, good companies. It's just that they started their business to protect your rights. They did not want to have certain things public. So when you do that, these criminals know that. They know what sites they want you to go on, and so that they can't be tracked. That's what happens. So the criminals will want to use more sites that they might not have been meant to be bad. It's just because there's no way for law enforcement to track them that they become a favorite of criminals.
Okay, I have a question. I'm Christy. I'm on the board of Tiger Bay. My mother and my mother-in-law are sitting over here, and my biggest fear is the spoofing. Number one, how do you tell when someone is spoofing a phone number? I know on an email you can usually kind of right-click and tell if it's a different email, but how do you tell on a phone number, and how do you protect yourself with, if one of their grandsons were to call or make it a spoofed voice, I think that they would run to wherever to help them. So that does scare me a little bit, and how do we protect ourselves from that?
Actually skip through a lot of the slides because a lot of the scams are in our little booklet, but the spoofing is a really big one. The reason we love to speak on that is because with these websites, it's almost impossible. Even with the phone numbers, it's almost impossible to tell if it's fake. What we will want you to do is protect yourself. Hang up and call a family member to verify who they say they are. Now, my grandmother, we use code names like Nana. We don't call her grandma. So she knows that if somebody calls and say, hey, grandma, it's not us calling. Or, like I said, hang up, call a family member and verify. Those websites, you don't have to rush or do anything quickly. If you receive an email from Amazon or Microsoft or any of those companies, take your time with it. If you need to call somebody and ask for help, do that. But it is very hard to stop all that from coming in, but there are ways you can protect yourself.
I would say as a grandparent, if your grandson or granddaughter start asking you for money, you should tell them just to get a hold of their mom and dad.
Roger.
We had something similar actually happen with my family. So my mother-in-law had gotten a message that I was arrested in Spain. And I can assure you I wasn't, because I don't think I would have been a federal prosecutor for very long if I had been. But she did, and the detective here just talked about it. She then called my wife. Because what made my mother-in-law think it was possible that it was true was, how do they know we were related? This is my mother-in-law. It's not my mother, so we have a different last name. And that's why I say they invest in you. They invest in learning things, because they use my name in that particular communication. Triangulate it. Talk to somebody other than whoever that person is. Talk to your daughter. Talk to someone else in your family. That's how you can confirm, who's really, because there are times in life where these things happen, and that's the tough part. That's the tug. Just talk to somebody else and verify it that way.
It was very informative. My name is Betty Sales Rose, but it just puzzled me. I was sitting back there to the table when y'all presented, I'm just wanted to know, this elder lady lost $300,000. And the only thing puzzling me, the bank did not call. because I myself was raised in New Orleans, and I kept, going getting money, spending it and everything. And when we got back to the motel, my bank called me. I told my cousin there, I said, why is Stankos keep calling me? But I did pick up. And they had wanted to know, was I in New Orleans? I said, yes, that's me. So that's the only thing puzzled me. Could you tell me how this all went about? Because $300,000 is a lot of money where that banker that didn't know say, hey, we got to halt it to see really if they need these $300,000.
Honestly, we see it every single day, and it varies from one bank to the next, meaning that it's up to them. And honestly, we have had cases, Officer McNeil and I, in our city, we've gone to every single bank, and we have a really good relationship with all the bank managers so that if they think there's something suspicious, they can reach out to us. But there was a situation where we had literally we've gone to every bank in the city, and then a bunch of them on the fringe, really close, within a half mile of the city we go, anything kind of like that. So we had probably gone to about 60 banks. And then we find out we have a woman from our city who comes in, and she had lost $60,000. She had withdrew. And I'm like, how? How did this happen? Well, here's the story. She went to a bank where she lived, way out in Northwest Bradenton. They refused to give her the $60,000. She then went to a bank just outside the city, but a stone's throw. They refused to give it to her. That criminal is on the phone with her. He said, hey, there's another branch over in Lakewood Ranch. And sure enough, she went there and she pulled out the $60,000. So these criminals stayed on the phone. Remember the 5 Ps? He was problem solving. And he found him. He was going to keep her because he was putting her under pressure that she had to do this.
Wow.
But you got to understand, they're professional actors. They're being really nice in some cases. Hey, I'm here to help you. You got someone that's targeting your account. We need to pull that money now. We don't know if it's a teller or not that's stealing. So I need you immediately to go pull your money. We're going to put it in a safe place where you'll get 5% interest while we work on this case. I work at the bank. That's what they sound like in some cases. Like they're so concerned, and they keep you on the phone. So in this case, yes, this was one that it did happen. She did pull it out, but for everyone, we could be here for hours, the three of us, and not just us. You go to your banker can tell you stories that they've had, for hours. We all have these horrific stories. So really, as much as we do talk, they will get by. It just happens. There's no real way to stop it other than trying not to go in the bank and pull that money out.
It just puzzled me. I had to ask that question because, it's kind of hard, because I know most banks will call you. If you're out of town or somewhere spending money, they do call you. I know that as a fact. Yeah. So it just was puzzling me. I had to ask you all that question.
And we went in and talked to them face to face. And we actually had a success story with the bank calling us and saying, hey, I think this is a red flag. I don't think that this person, I think this is a red flag. I don't think that this person is going to spend this money for what he said he's going to spend it for. So some banks do call us, and we had success with that, but there have been stories just like his where we haven't had the success.
All right, thank you.
So
if you all want to continue this, December 9th, we'll be at 13th Avenue Youth Center with the same speakers. I guess you all going to be there, so I enjoy it. Thank you, very informative.
Thank you, Ms. Rose.
I stood up and Miss Rhodes stood up, and I've not gone before Miss Rhodes.
You better not, Nelson.
Since I was like 13 years old, I know Miss Rhodes always goes first. So I have a question and a comment, and I'm glad you're here because I've always wondered this. I've been a victim or they've tried to defraud me so many times. They've hit my bank, my office accounts. When Judge Gould was a prosecutor, she prosecuted a case where I got defrauded. But I had a guy, and I'm going to plug First Southern Bank. It's a small bank, so I know everybody in the branch, and there's only a couple of branches around the state. So I had a guy that got a hold of my driver's license, and I can't figure out how he did that, and he duplicated it, and he had every single information piece on my driver's license exactly correct except the picture. He had his picture on my driver's license. I still got it on my phone. And he went into the bank on the other side of the state, and tried to draw $10,000 out of my account. And so that bank over there saw that it was a Bradenton address, so they called the bank in Bradenton, and the bank in Bradenton called me and said, hey, are you over in Stewart trying to take $10,000 out of the bank? And I'm like, no, I'm sitting in my office in Palmetto. So they didn't give the guy the $10,000, and they did finally arrest him. I don't know what happened with it, but how did this guy get a copy of my driver's license? Because it's like I don't put that on my Facebook. I don't let people
but
take pictures
remember
of that.
what I kind of talked about with the different type of criminals? So again, the third level criminal, the one that's going through the extra effort, the one who's researching, the one who's actually, you could take whatever scam, but that third criminal, the one that's taking his time to figure out, oh, my victim, look at the target victim, see what he has, look at it through social media, see what means he can find, see what else he's posted on. It's amazing what you can find just on the internet on somebody if you spend a little time. And it's not a lot of work. You'd be amazed at what you can find if you really start searching. But again, you've got to, instead of thinking about so much how, it's more like how did they target you or why did they target you? Unfortunately, we see it every single day.
Yeah, I just can't believe I don't hand people my driver's license.
You sound
No
like
idea
Ocean
how
11 criminals. They just take their time.
I actually Googled my 90-year-old grandmother who's never had a social media account, but her name appeared on Google, her address, her phone number that she's had since my dad and them were kids. So you would be really surprised. They have all these people search websites available, and all you have to do is pay a certain amount, and you can get any information about any person. It's very scary.
Hello, I'm Susie Copeland. And you mentioned that for seniors to go to, the Apple Pay, I call it Apple Pay or Pay. And for me, and you said set up your accounts, pay online. And as a senior, and the older I get, the more difficulty that I'm having just navigating the internet system. So what suggestion would you, for me, one who recognize not as quick as I used to be, and it takes much, much longer, and I find I don't have that ability like I used to. Okay. So I need something, an alternative
Absolutely.
to that.
So you know how when you walk into your bank and there's those cute little kiosks where your banker is sitting at all day? That's their little office. When you walk into that bank, you get to know your banker. You ask them how to set up those online functions. That's what they are getting paid there to do. They want you to continue to bank with them. If you bank at Chase, Chase wants you to come in and they can show you how you can set up your credit cards on your phone so you can tap to pay. They'll show you how to do that. They'll show you how to do automatic bill pay so FPL can take out the money that you get in from wherever you get it from to pay that bill. So that's what those bankers are there for. They're there for your banking needs. And you can always call myself too. Our number is on the back of that pamphlet. If you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to guide you through what we can. But your banker is that best bet when it comes to anything financial.
Here again, we're dealing with seniors, laptops, even our cell phone. My husband, I no connection with our accounts because he's still having difficulty using his cell phone.
And that is great you bring that up because that is something that you can help a senior with. We find seniors who have cell phones, they don't even know how to block the phone numbers.
Yes.
And that, it amazes me because everyone takes that for granted or they don't know how to delete and block. A lot of seniors don't update their computers and tablets and phones to the latest antivirus. All these little things. Teach a senior how to block a phone call. Sometimes these seniors are getting called all hours of the day, and all of a sudden we go over there and we start showing them how to block a call. They call us back, and they don't care about the money they've lost. They're elated that they're able to sleep through the night. And we are like, okay, we have a problem here with technology, and that's really it. The technology has gone so quick and so fast. And now with AI and what I've seen in what's happened with crime, just from, well, actually not just AI, like the level of printers The quality of making a copy of a printer is unbelievable from 4 years ago to now. So we have to raise the level of our thought process of, could this be, you just have to have that red flag constantly. Is this a scam? Is this not a scam?
Last
I find
question.
myself getting or calling my grandmother and grandfather to help them. So if you have grandkids, have them help you out with stuff like that too. I mean, they know more than even we do. So I just saw a little toddler with the iPad the other day. I'm like, oh my gosh. But they know a lot about technology, so have family member help you out.
I'm Jonathan Mullis, Tiger Bay board member. I had a question on the scammers. Are you finding that most of them are individuals, or is this more like organized crime now? I've heard that some of them are actually victims of fraud themselves oftentimes, and especially in other countries.
Roger, I want you to answer this question as far as like on the other countries with they showed the call center, so
That's what I was referring to.
yeah, like, is it, because I feel like when they call me about Social Security and benefits, and I'm not even elderly, like they're trying to fish to see if I would give them their Social Security. So how often do we see that type of fraud?
So for your question, it really depends on which part of the organization you're talking about. It is organized crime. I mean, make no doubt about it. I mean, there's an organized conspiracy that stretches across international boundaries to defraud people in these ways. The call centers are normally and usually located outside the United States. So when I was U.S. Attorney, they showed the one in India. We had a lot of them in India. And so those are the people making the calls. They're sending the emails. But what they then need is they need people inside the United States to be able to move the money. And sometimes, you know, in our world, we would call them money mules. And sometimes they were witting, you know, they knew what was going on, and sometimes they were unwitting. They did not quite yet know what was going on. And part of the job law enforcement has is they have to try to figure out which category someone is in. And these people are being asked to do things that are just really wild. And a lot of it now is precious metals, it's cryptocurrency, it used to be cash. Because what the concept is these are all races against time in these schemes. So if you're using the normal banking channels and you're sending stuff through EFTs or wires, there's a limited ability that banks and law enforcement have to reverse it. And so what the bad guys are trying to do is they got to get that money to them before someone reverses it. So they started going to things like, hey, we need you to buy a bunch of gold, and we're going to have somebody drive there and get the gold. And what we would sometimes find is we would sometimes find people who were engaging in facilitating what we call money laundering. And sometimes they did not really understand, like, yeah, that's not your friend who you're doing this for. This is a scammer. And there's a letter that law enforcement would give to people saying, you are part of a fraud, you are part of a scam, please stop doing it. It was to give them the notice to hopefully get them to stop. But the short answer is you see people with all sorts of different levels of knowledge about the scams. And there are some people who participate in them who don't quite know what they're doing, and then there's a lot of people who know exactly what they're doing.
Can I say one more thing? I know, you already said last question. Really quick, number one, we all need to buy gel pens. I think that's the first one. We're giving some to Octavius, and she likes checks. But also, just quick, not a long answer, but what is the percentage of elder fraud that deals with romance schemes?
It's romance and friend scams. A lot of elderly, once they lose their loved one that they've been with for X amount of years, they get very lonely. And a lot of these scammers, they play on that vulnerability. And they open up social media accounts. They don't know technology too well, so they end up falling, just like he said earlier about the lady with Elon Musk. Elon Musk worked her for months, became her friend, befriended her, and then she finally gave. So we don't see it too often, but we have seen some severe cases like that, just being played off their vulnerability.
And so the data I showed was, it was survey data, and it does have that information in terms of the different amounts for each one. So I'd have to look at it. So typically the largest dollar loss are the investment fraud scams. I think the number of scams that's probably the most are actually IT scams. You know, you've got a virus on your computer. That's always one of the ones that's up there. And those categories kind of move over time as well. So there was a time where I was prosecuting Jamaican lottery scheme cases, and those still exist, but you know, there's sort of trends in that. But we could look that up and get you that.
Thank you so much. As Detective, you can take the microphone. I'm about to wrap it up, so as you close out, and if you want to answer that, you can, but I also want you guys to give it your last advice to our members and the people that will be watching this on the replay about elder fraud and fraud in general. So any one of you could take it first and close us out.
I would say stop and think. You know, the pressure, to me, that seems to be the big one. So the best advice I would say is don't act quickly.
I would say contact a friend, call a family, a friend to verify what you have going on, even contact us. Like I said, we've listed our information in those booklets. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer anything. But your family members, they probably have seen this before, or anybody else that you may know have seen these things before, and they should be able to answer as well.
Call them. And I say that because, so I did white-collar prosecutions, and it really is a labor of love to do these cases. They're very difficult cases. And from what you've heard from them, you can tell where their heart is. And their heart is if they can do anything to stop something from happening to somebody, they will take your call. And so take advantage of it. I think a lot of times people don't want to inconvenience somebody. Like, I don't want to bother you. They are here. They are part of your community. They serve this community. So take advantage of this resource you have because they will help you.
Thank you all so much. Former U.S. Attorney Roger Hamburg, please give him a round of applause. Officer Deanna McNeil, please give her a round of applause. Now, Detective Jim Carula, I didn't even know you talked, but you are passionate about this, and I appreciate it, and we appreciate it, and we thank you all for this panel. If you want to contact them, reach out to them. You saw the code go up, and bring them out to your churches and your family events, and have them talk to your people about what's going on so you don't get defrauded. Our Tiger by the Tail is going to go to the judge. You were able to pull out more information, but all the questions were amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you all to my board members. You can raise your hands. Thank you to the board members that are here. I appreciate you. Oh, excuse me. January 22nd is our next meeting, conversation with the new superintendent, Dr. Lori Breslin. And February 26, 2026 is our law enforcement update. We'll have Sheriff Rick Wells, Chief Tyler, Chief Tokacher, and Chief Kramer will be here in February. Thank you to Bezos for lunch. Thank you to METV for coming out today. You will be able to catch the replay. You all have a great day and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.